All right, I think the airbag light will clear eventually on its own. Is my understanding. But I got the clock spring fixed. So initially I took all this off just to test whether or not the switches were working. You can see now when I hit that, it actually shows cruise up there, turns off. All these switches work now. Horn works now. And what it ended up being is the clock spring is underneath all this. So when you take this off, take the steering wheel off and everything else, the clock spring has two connections, so it kind of hangs down underneath here. And one of those connections was just ever so slightly not plugged in. And when I was looking at everything and trying to, mess with the connector, I heard it snap into place. I turned everything on. I didn't have the airbag in or anything. Put the battery back on, and then realized that the cruise control was coming on and off now. Drove around the block, everything worked. All of these buttons worked. And then I put this back on the horn. So again, the code that this was thrown was a P0581. And this was a new clock spring I put in. It just looks like it just wasn't completely plugged in all the way, and that's what threw that code. Now, interestingly, even though the original clock spring was bad, and I still had a did I say 0720, which was the rear speed, the sensor that's in the rear axle, on top of the rear axle. So once I fixed that, that's when the new code came up, the P0581, suggesting that there was something wrong with the switches and high voltage. But as I mentioned, that ended up apparently being the fact that the clock spring wasn't fully plugged in.